Hey everyone, welcome back. Azul here. Today we have Jeff Burningham. He has been an early investor in over a dozen companies in tech and real estate valued at over $1 billion. I don't know that I could even count that high, but grateful he's here. And he co-founded a Peak Capital Partners, a real estate investment firm with over 5 billion assets. And in 2020, Jeff ran for governor of Utah and now sits on the boards of many companies he's invested in and mentoring some of the brightest mentor or entrepreneurs in Utah, which is incredible to have somebody giving back. And we're going to talk today about his new book called The Last Book Written by a Human, Becoming Wise in the Age of AI. I was enthralled when I saw this come in my inbox because I love talking about AI, consciousness, entrepreneurship, and the writing process. So this was a perfect match. I'm so glad you're here, Jeff. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Azul, for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, right when I got this in my inbox, I was like, I need to read this now because I get a lot of pitches that kind of intrigue me, but very few that the book holds up to the pitch. I got to be honest. Some have really good agents that pitch them, but I want to know where this started from because going from running for governor and then, and I'm sure, as you said in your book, so many people thought, what are you doing, Jeff? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people said, you're writing a book. What are you doing? What are you doing? In a whole new industry. Tell us how this book came to be. How did it decide it needed to be birthed?
Oh, that is a long story, Azul. But I'll try to tell it quickly. And it's kind of a two-step process, really. I was the book starts at the Ganges River in India, as you recall. Mm-hmm. And I was laying from there, from Varanasi, we went to Tibet. And I was woken up in the middle of the night. This is 7 years ago. With, that voice from the universe, from God, from your higher self saying, you're an author. And I fought with it for about a half an hour. I'm not an author. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm way too busy. I'm running a large private equity firm, venture funds. I'm not an author. It would just not leave me alone. So I got up. It was about 3 a.m. and just quietly started tapping. My wife was in bed, so quietly started tapping on my keyboard, having no idea kind of what I was going to write. And spent a couple hours just writing. I just felt prompted. I felt inspired to do so. I came back, got busy with my businesses, of course, ran for governor in the state of Utah, like you said. And then what's interesting is after I lost the governor's race, I really felt like that kind of took me off the stage. It was an ego death of sorts in a good way. I lost during the pandemic, which was a hard way to lose. And it went into this kind of quiet time that we all had in the summer of 2020 and really started reflecting on life, got back into venture capital, started doing research on a bunch of different technologies, most of which, the biggest one that struck my attention was AI. So started kind of messing around, writing some more. This is in 2020. Okay, but then the final thing that happened, and this is the true story. I was with my wife in India about 2.5 years ago, and we were at this old Ayurvedic lodge in southern India, in Kerala. And I would go into this lodge and get this old, very traditional massage from two men kind of rubbing me down rhythmically. And all I can tell you is my third eye blasted open during these events. And I would literally run from these massages. We were there for 3 days, run back to the room and just start typing for hours and hours and hours. And my wife watched all of this in fascination and in kind of cracking up. It was very interesting. Anyways, we were in India for a couple of weeks and I just kept writing every day and every night. And that's when the book became non-optional for me. I became serious about writing the book. And again, that was about 2.5 years ago. So I would have never plotted this out. I never planned to be a writer. I never planned to write a book, let alone a book about humanity and AI. But I really felt compelled.
Yeah. It felt like I was a little shocked. It felt like I was diving into a spiritual book that I wasn't prepared to understand. And I hope that doesn't offend you. I was trying to understand, why am I here reading this book? Because I chose it, right? I picked it. I decided to have you here. And you do a beautiful job of the opening, but I won't give it away. I want people to read it. But I think what I notice is the questions that are lingering in lots of people's minds out there listening is, for those people who've avoided AI, right? I say, you haven't avoided AI. You just didn't know you were using it already. And two, who are fearful of AI. It started to bring about some beautiful connections for me, and I really appreciated it. But let's talk about this sort of idea of AI and why is it sparking so much attention, not just in the tech world, but in what's going to happen in the ways humanity will see itself.
Yeah, I'd love to ask you, why did you think you're reading it? Why were you reading it then and now? What conclusion did you come to, or if any? I'm just curious.
That I don't know if I came to a conclusion, Jeff. That's why I tell you I think I have more questions, because maybe I need more knowledge. But what I observed was that I'm not afraid of AI. That was my realization. I'm not at all afraid. I think there was some time, like 2020, when November was happening, I was like, oh, I don't know what's happening here. But what I felt like was this might be the chance we were looking for. Is how I felt.
Yes, that's exactly how I wanted you to feel. I mean, I want the book to feel familiar to people. The book follows kind of a technology disruption, but it's also our personal disruption. So we start with disruption, then we have some time to reflect, we transform, and then we evolve. So AI is happening. We can't stop it. I mean, maybe it would be good if we could stop it. Maybe if we could pull the plug, maybe that would be better, but we can't, and that's not going to happen. So I try to lay out kind of the bull case for AI and why I really think it's here. And I make the argument, and I call AI a cosmic mirror. Mm-hmm. And that's what I really believe it is for humanity. It's a reflection of us. It's a reflection of who we are. And I think it's a tool that can either help us through this process of disruption, reflection, transformation, and evolution, or obviously, I mean, in the very worst case, it could destroy us. When you dump the power of AI onto our current world of division, greed, etc., that's a dangerous recipe. But if we allow AI, if we bring the best of ourselves to AI, if we allow it to inform our awakening, if we use it to transform our institutions, to serve people, to build people, then I think it can be a beautiful thing. But my fear is that's not the direction we're heading. So I am so glad that the book came into your inbox or came into you at this time. I really want the book to feel familiar to people, because I think there is a familiar cycle that we're experiencing here. And I think that I say in the book that AI seems to be the mechanism that God or the universe is using to help us level up, to help us transform. See, if I could say like the thesis of the book in one sentence, it would be, as our machines become more intelligent, Azul, we must become more wise.
Yeah.
And it's left to us. Are we doing that? Are we going to do that? I mean, we shall see as this rolls out.
Yeah. So you talk in the essence of this idea of this awakening consciousness, this idea of coming to a sense of understanding. If you're listening, you're like, okay, I don't even know what AI is necessarily. And I'm not sure I even know what this conversation around consciousness awakening and what this mirror of the universe. Let's break it down. Let's start with helping people understand like the basics of AI. What is it that you think people are afraid of or wondering or worried about? And I know you talk about this book, but you talk about this conscious capitalism. I'm curious if we can lean into that. But like, let's start with the basics. Why are you challenging this notion of AI and why we're here?
Well, I'm doing it because, again, I think if we continue down, I call it the old game, if you remember from the book. Yeah. I talk about the old game that we've been playing, one of division, greed, and selfishness. If we dump AI onto that current game, the old game, again, I think it's a recipe for disaster. Because my argument, my feeling, my thought is that AI isn't here to amass money. It's not here for us to gain power, although some people will try to use it in those ways, and it may be a good tool for that. But I argue that we should use it for a more holistic purpose, one in which, again, it acts as a reflection to us. We get to see ourselves, humanity as a whole, and us as individuals in the mirror, and then we get to decide what we do with that information. Do we like what we see? Do we like the current path that we're on? See, I think that most of us can feel that the path that we're on, that humanity's on, is unsustainable. Yeah. So what do we do to transform? What are we willing to do personally and as a collective to transform, to evolve, so that AI can act, like I said, as a positive tool for human flourishing, again, instead of human destruction? So that's the general thesis and ethos.
So to help the listeners understand what needs to happen, where does the shift need to occur for this to be true? Because some people are like, I'm not in control. I don't have any power. I'm not the government. I'm not the boss. How can I even do anything about it? AI is coming. What would I do as an ordinary human, just living my life, that would make it lean towards the positive?
It's a great question. It's a hard question. But I think the answer is the same as it always is, which is I can just do the best that I can do. I can change myself internally. And if enough of us do that, we will change the collective, and or we'll start a movement that will, with awareness, with love. So there isn't some big grand answer here. I think it's to bring the best of ourselves in our personal use of AI. But as you read the book, you saw that, I don't know exactly, but really this is a book about human nature.
Yeah.
It's 75% about human nature and 25% about this tool, this technology AI that is coming to inform human nature, that is coming to help us recognize who we are and what reality really is. And then it's up to us to decide, again, individually and collectively, what we do with that information.
So we talk about this, you talked about system-wide upgrades. We'll get to the conscious capitalism, but this upgrading that's kind of seemed to be occurring or could occur or might occur. I'm not sure. It's all the same. But what I have observed is, how is that going to play out in your mind on structures or systems like religion that are so seated in human tradition and beliefs and values that even if they're untethered, that the values that the faith or the religious things don't match the performance of the long-term thing? So like, how is systems like that aren't political might shape by this idea that it could be used for good or bad, for awareness or not?
Yeah, I think that every kind of system follows this same process that I've spoken about. So I think that AI is here to disrupt these systems. I speak about reforming religion in one of the chapters. And to sum up the chapter, I would just ask religious leaders, of which I've been one. I grew up as a Mormon, a Latter-day Saint. I've been a bishop, which is a local leader of a ward of about 500, a congregation of about 500 people. And I think the question for religious leaders to ask is, in the age of highly intelligent machines, what special practice or belief should really stand in the way of human connection?
Simple.
I would argue that we're struggling with human connection, that our children and grandchildren may even struggle more. We need to do everything we can to bring people together. So what special practice or belief should really stand in the way of us bringing human community together, which I believe is the purpose of all religion? So number one, I talk about conscious capitalism, as you said. And to me, that's again about a few hoarding resources, power, money, which could be done with AI, versus understanding the spiritual implications of what this mirror is and of why AI is here now. And leaning in to that human flourishing for all, rather than promoting power and resources within a small group of people. And then lastly, I talk about changing politics. I talk about the human political movement, one that is focused on human flourishing rather than right and wrong, good and bad, left and right, liberal versus conservative. The truth is that no matter our differences, Azul, I'm with you right now. We're different people. We have different stories. We look different. We have different backgrounds. But anytime I'm with another human being, we always have more alike, no matter our differences. And we've forgotten that. And the algorithm, AI, the almighty algorithm, is highlighting those differences and making money off those differences. Instead of saying, remember, although you and Azul are different, come from different backgrounds, remember, you have more in common, X, Y, Z. And at the end of the day, I believe that this existence is about love. And I believe that this is a tool that can remind us of that, break us down to our basics, and remind us that this is about loving each other. Obviously, it can and is being used to divide us, That's the wrong direction. There is another way. The plea of this book is it's a reminder to humanity, to anyone who reads it, there is another way. We don't have to keep going down the path that we have.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: how has this writing this book or challenging this topic changed who you are? Because it seems like if you weren't on this bent before, there's no going back.
Yeah, thank you. And from writing a book and this book has broken me completely down. I talk about the stages, and let's just pause for a second. The first stage of disruption, Azul, I almost get emotional. It's painful. Yeah. Disruption is painful, personally and collectively. And we're being disrupted. And we either can get bitter about that, get entrenched, go to our lesser selves, our ego, feed our ego, create division, or we can choose to lean into our higher selves, into love, into our common humanity, into what makes humans special, which I argue in the book, as you remember, is being.
Being, not doing.
It's not doing. We become human doings. And as long as we exist, as long as we breathe, you and I are breathing right here. We are doing things. We're talking, we're connecting, we're doing a podcast. There's enough doing that will happen naturally. We've lost touch with being. We can't outdo the machines. AI doesn't sleep. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't have to forget anything. It can remember everything it's ever read or ingested. We need to lean into being. And we're being reminded of that. I think AI is reminding us that we are here to be and not just do.
Yeah. I have huge one. This is where I told you now I have more questions because I was an educator for a long time and I was the one that poked the box. It's significantly harder to poke the box inside the box than outside of it, I must say. Yeah. But what I've observed was I was always challenging even the most innovative schools that I worked at that we didn't have textbooks. It was just all project. It was really fascinating. But even then I kept pushing on. But you all think the purpose is for them to go to college. I said, what if the purpose is to do what we're doing right now? Like the thing we're creating in this moment has to be that valuable. It can't be for when someday happens. And they were like, no, but this is our metrics. I'm like, oh gosh. I was like, what if there is no college when these kids get there? They're like, there's going to be college. I'm like, I'm not sure. And so I didn't fit very well in that box, as you can tell. But I really leaned on the side. I was like, this has got to be for the good. The fact that, well, what if, because I was a teacher and I trained teachers. What if AI can replace a teacher? So don't get upset. What would you do then with the humans that are there that doesn't require the doing part anymore? Who would you be? So that's the part that started to get me excited because I also felt like the vote for humanity was something I could get on board. And I didn't have any fear. I don't know that I had fear before reading your book. I just had a lot of questions. And what it did for me is made me say, I want to be insatiably curious about how I can use this in my life to be the better person, to be better. That's it. I'm not trying to do anything for anyone else. And that's been really rewarding because now I can do things when I go to the grocery store with joy and happy. Nobody's going to take you cut my line? Great. Awesome. You're supposed to be ahead of me. I just, there's no doing that can get in the way anymore if I'm being honest, because eventually we won't need to be doing much of anything. And then what? What will we do?
Yeah. Who will we be? When we define ourselves too much by what we do. And I tell a story in the book, you might remember. I'm running a multi-billion-dollar real estate private equity firm. I'm running a multi-$100 million venture fund. And for some reason, I decide to go and get my MBA. And I'm sitting, which is at nights and weekends. My own decision. I was a human doing. I was doing way too much. And do you remember the teacher? I'll never forget this day. The teacher asked, it was a leadership class of some sort. And he said, I want you to think about what's really motivating you right now. Think of anything that's really motivating you and inspiring you. And I sat there and was blank. I've always been a big dreamer, obviously. I mean, I think kind of based on my track record and what I've done, I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always had these glorious visions, and I was flat, Azul, because I had turned myself into this human doing, and I had lost touch with my being. And if you recall, this was part of the disruption for me. If you recall, there were two visions that came to my mind. Number one, as a kid of the 90s, it was kind of this mashup, I think I say in the book, and Yo MTV Raps. It was this crazy party with beautiful people and very little clothing and illicit substances as an active Mormon, I had never even thought of taking or, experienced. And I was shocked by that. But the second vision I had was even more scary and more shocking. And I envisioned myself there at my desk, closing my laptop quietly, putting it in my bag, and going to the Salt Lake City airport that was just like 15 minutes down the road and buying a one-way ticket to the furthest away place, leaving my beautiful soulmate wife, Sally, my 4 beautiful children, the financial empire that I was building, all my colleagues and partners. I had driven myself to the bitter edge. There was nothing left for me to do. The only thing I could do is let go. And so there's a tension here between letting go, living in flow, allowing the world to take us where it should, but being wise in how we do that. Like you said, going to the grocery store with awareness, with love, with brightness. We can all bring that to our everyday interactions with other humans. We can bring that to our interactions with AI. Obviously, we can prompt AI with destructive prompts, learning how to whatever. I don't even want to, doing bad things and again, amassing wealth and power, or we can prompt it with, how might I be a better person today? How might I bring being into my existence more fully? So anyways, that's one of the stories that you might recall I share in the book, and one that was part of my painful disruption and transformation.
So what brought you through to the other side of that? Because obviously writing a book about it, and, I read lots of books, and a lot of them are, shifts in business or getting attention for something so they can, leverage it for something. That's why I told you I wasn't expecting this, because I was like, this doesn't have a play in line. I'm like, dang it, this is not normally how it goes for me. I know that playbook. Yeah. So I started wondering, is it possible that someone is out there, maybe like me, who think there's more to this world than what we see, and that consciousness, the depth of who we are, is more important than anything we might do? I was like, and I kept reading. I'm like, okay, this is surprising. I wasn't expecting this from you, Jeff. I was expecting a case study for why we should all love AI and buy into it. And it wasn't necessarily that. It was the idea that you proposed just now, which is love. I was like, I'm intrigued, and I'm so curious how Jeff decided to write this book, and what people who are in your world now might think of what you're doing. Or they, oh yeah, that's Jeff. This is what he's been talking about all along. Or no, this is the new Jeff. I don't know who this Jeff is.
Yeah, there will be some of that. I mean, to be honest with you, releasing this book is a personal crucible for me in many ways. It's already caused some disruption or challenge in my life. No, I was a human doing. I was kind of on top of, I talk about at the beginning of the book about climbing my little mountain of success and getting to the top of my little mountain of success here in Utah, being at the top of the business game and realizing there's nothing up here, nothing different. I think I say in the book, there's just a cold, howling wind at the top of the mountain. Most of us will get there to our own little mountain of success, and we'll realize, I will say, oh shit.
Yeah.
What do I do now? I go back down the mountain, picking up the pieces, a little bit of a tattered life because of my addiction to doing. I go back into the places of community that I'm at, my family, my religion, my businesses, with a little more awareness and presence. And I work to be more than do. Yeah. So I really wrote this book, Azul, as a conversation starter. I wanted you, and it brings me so, what a labor of love and suffering writing a book is. It was for me. And you're bringing me so much joy you're asking the questions that I wanted you to ask. And I wanted you to bring those to your partner, to your family, to your business, to your church, to your community center, and say, has anyone read this book? The last book written by a human? Is there any chance some of what Jeff says here is right? Is there any chance we could do this? Is AI, could it really be a cosmic mirror to humanity and be giving us a chance to rise to our potential?
Yeah.
Or not. Anyways, that's why I wrote the book. And so, and yes, at great personal cost, potentially.
Yeah. I had that sense. That's why I was surprised. That's why I was like, I have more questions because they weren't
Yeah.
on the book. And I thought when someone makes an incredible shift, and I coach a lot of authors, some like yourself have incredible success in the world, and they're at the top of their mountain and they realize the same thing. It's the howling wind up here. And what's amazing about being their coach is I get to hold space for them and watch them transform because
Yeah.
when they pick a topic that was meant for them first, when they know that this is something that they're wrestling with deep inside, then the book only could have the transformation for the reader. That's why I was feeling it. I could sense, I was like, oh, this isn't what I expected to read. I was expecting a bookcase about AI. And I was like, I wasn't expecting this to be on my soul, touching my heart. But as each person, maybe, who's reading a book is ready, let's say that, I don't know if there's a better word, to accept the ideas. It's not that you're teaching them anything. You're awakening them to what they already know. And that's why I was like, oh, I know what this book is because I'm already aware.
Yeah, I'm reminding people. That's why I said, like, I really want the book to feel familiar to people because I'm not teaching anything that each of us doesn't already know at the deepest of our core. Now, we've layered programs on top of that. We've layered trauma. We've layered institutional pain. And the call of the book is to come back to our humanity. Because honestly, Azul, I only think it's if we do that we survive AI, that we are able to use and I'm saying on the long-term survival, that we're able to use AI for the purposes that it's here. It's in coming back to ourselves, into rehumanizing ourselves, that we're able to then leverage AI for the amazing things that it can do for human flourishing, for reforming our institutions. But if we continue to fill it with ego and division and greed, I don't think our future is as bright as it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you felt that. And this book was deeply transformational for me. I never thought. I woke up in Tibet 7 years ago saying, you're an author. And I fought it. No. I kind of ignored it for the next 5 years. And it wasn't until I really woke up and I could really be still and listen that I felt like I had to write this book. The truth is, I would have never chosen to write it. It was so painful and transformational, and some of that pain and transformation is sure yet to come. I would have never done it unless I didn't feel like it was kind of a calling. And I think that we all have a book within ourselves. Some of us choose to write it or not. We all are here to create art. That's one thing that we can do as humans, is lean into our unique selves to bring our unique energy and art into the world. But most of us run away from that. Most of us never hear the call. When we do hear the call, we say, I can't do that. No, it's too scary. I won't do that. I think this is the call to humanity now. And I hope it's the encouragement of the book, is for each individual to lean into their beautiful art, their beautiful energy. When we do that, we bring the transformation and evolution into our world, and then our personal world, and then into the greater world as well. I think there's no other way. You know, these might seem like kind of simple answers, or, oh yeah, everything's love. Well, give me love is the most powerful motivator on the earth. All of us really just want to love and be loved. In order to do that, we have to first love ourselves. And that's a hard process to go through.
Yeah. I think so much of this reason I was reading this was like, oh my gosh, this is not what I expected. This is exactly what I wanted, but not in a million years expected it. So I was delighted. When I thought about this whole idea that this new humanity, this new age, that the age of Aquarius that we thought we were getting in the 60s and the early 70s didn't occur. I think that's why I was so hopeful. I was like, oh, maybe it's because we just had too much to do. But as there's less to do, who will you be if there's nothing to do? I was telling this to one of my groups. I coach a group on creativity, and I was talking to them, and I was saying some people will come like I was to meet somebody who might be sitting, and maybe I was sitting for an hour, and they came. They're like, I am so sorry I'm late. I'm sorry to make you wait. I said, oh, I wasn't waiting. Like, were you sitting here the whole time? Oh yeah, I think I was sitting here the whole time, but I wasn't waiting. And they're so confused. I'm like, well, I'm not waiting for anything. I'm just here. I just happen to be here. And I think I learned so much from going in a retreat with Eckhart Tolle years ago that helped me feel that the sense of truth is always in this present moment. And that most creative people think that they'll be better at what they're doing in their creative life someday when they get better at it. And I'm like, gosh, that's not what creativity is at all. It's your humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. The present moment is all we ever have, Azul. The past is the past. And too much of us are weighed down by mistakes of the past. And then we're projecting fear into an unknown future. And we can do that massively right now in our world with all the dislocation and disruption and division that we're feeling. The future is a figment of our imagination. We only ever get to the future via the present moment. And so I say that's what existence really is. The life of God, the life of eternity or of existence, whatever you want to say, is in every present moment. It's an eternal round of life, death, and rebirth. That happens on a macro scale, and that happens in a micro scale. Every moment, the breath mimics that. Our breathing mimics that. Life, death, rebirth. Yeah, so I love that vision. I totally agree with you. I love Eckhart. I feel like this book is almost I felt like his book about a new earth was kind of a 50,000 foot view. I think the last book written by a human, this is what I came to feel the last year. It's kind of taken us down to maybe 20,000 feet or 30,000. It's taken it down a level and reminding us to be present and reminding us how the greatest tool for transformation that we've ever created as humans, AI, is here now. And it's here to drive us into the present moment. Here to drive us into our being. That's what I'm trying to remind people of. Yeah. And cause people to think about and to feel. As you know, this is all writing a book is more about the heart than the mind.
Absolutely.
And that's what was pain. I had to get into the deepest recesses of my heart, excavate what was not in alignment with truth or love, let that stuff go, which is hard work, and then try to put on the page something that might hopefully resonate with other people like yourself, other people who will read the book. I don't know. I viewed this book as my piece of art. It's a piece of art to me. And the only thing I could bring to it was who I was. And I just tried to make this the most beautiful piece of art I could. I'm not saying it's beautiful. Readers can decide that. You can decide that. But I'll tell you this, Azul. Here's what I can decide and here's what I know. Brought my whole heart and soul into writing this book. And I did the best that I could. And I have to leave it, even though it's not perfect, even though there's so many decisions I made that could have made it go one way or another and changed the whole trajectory. I followed my heart and did the best that I could in writing this book. And I guess I only share that I think that's what writing's about. I think that's what art is about. Mm-hmm. When there's an artist, a writer that does that, like, we can't ask anything more. When there's a leader, a politician that does that, what else can we ask for? They've brought the best of themselves to the work in authenticity. And we need more of that leadership in the world right now. We need more of that art in the world right now. And I think we have the opportunity to bring that in the world.
Yeah. I love the way you describe that it's art. I tell my clients, and I have a lot of very successful, very smart clients that, they might have multiple degrees or, been a lawyer or doctor or they're chair of this or that. And the thing that's most difficult for them when I ask them is, I want you to write, but I don't want you to think. And they're like, well, how would I write if I'm not thinking? Yeah. I go, well, you were trained to be an editor, not a writer. What do you mean? Well, what I tell them is, in school, you were assigned a paper, right? Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you were in third grade or if you were in college. And they said, well, when is it due? What's the rubric? What's the metrics? What's the grade? I'm an A student.
How do I get an A?
How do I get an A? I'm a B student and I know what do I need? And you edited to that end. So we were not trained to be writers. We're trained to be editors. So our brain is constantly editing from the very first moment we start typing. So most people type, delete, type, delete, type. No, start again. And that's how their brain works around writing. And I tell them, that's not writing. That's putting an extra step in the middle. The divinity happens when you let what is in you come out without you judging it, without you holding it back, with being true and honest. That's what's in you. Your mind is trying to mitigate this. I can't say this. I could say that, but I better not say that. And that's the editing brain. And my main job is to get those really smart people to stop thinking.
Yeah. That's maybe AI's main job too, Azul, to get us a little bit out of our heads and more in our hearts so that we can remember who we really are, what we're really doing here existing, and to decide if we like the path that we're headed down. And we really can only sense that in our heart. And that's one of the blessings of AI. As it does more and more, as it does it better than we can ever do, hopefully we will choose to be and be more loving, be more aware, be more conscious, be more present. And that's how we change the world. I mean, the world is changed by us being our best selves and then doing what we can to elect, to promote, to advocate for causes and individuals that we believe in represent this heart-based leadership.
Yeah.
It's less about our head, more in our heart. I love your perspective on all of this. It's really cool.
Thanks, Jeff.
It's good to meet you.
It's great to meet you. I really appreciated this book. I think anyone out there who's listening, if you're not already persuaded to read this book, please do. They're probably going to want to know where we can find more of you, Jeff. If you have, I know you have a podcast, you have things that I'm sure things are shifting under your feet as you're sharing this. So maybe life will be different in a few months. I don't know, but I think it will only be better as the way you've described in your book. Where would they go to find more about you or connect?
Yeah, probably the best place is just jeffburningham.com. That's like burningaham.com. On my website, people can pre-order at Amazon, Walmart, Target, Books A Million, wherever their Barnes and Noble, wherever their favorite place is. But the book is for sale. We started pre-sales a couple of weeks ago. And people can stay in touch there. They can learn more about me there. I think this is just the beginning. I kind of view this as a bridge to the second half of my career. The first half of my career was so focused on doing, so focused on the old game of achieving, of building companies, which I love, by the way. They're filled with people that I love. We did great work, honest work. We built companies. We've had fun. It's been an adventure, but I'm 48 years old. My heart's call the last 5 years, again, really since losing the governor race in Utah, my heart's pull has been towards this more kind of spiritual, mindful work. The way that I'm expressing it publicly for the first time is this book. And I think there's more to come in that regard for me. Yeah. I think. I don't know, honestly, but that's what it seems like. That's what it feels like. And I just want to, I'm really grateful. Something you said, 10 or 20 minutes ago, you didn't feel an agenda in the book, I think is what you said. There was no agenda. The agenda was to share my heart, to share what I believe is true, to share what I've learned from my varied experience in politics, spirituality, business, and to try to bring that truth to the world in a way that can hopefully be embraced, that can hopefully move us towards our potential rather than drag us down, rather than put us in a box. That was so I don't know where this will take me, and I'm open to the possibilities. And I feel like whether I sell 10,000 books or 10 million books, I already feel like a winner, Azul. You know the feeling. And what I mean by that, I've won because I've been changed.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't control outcomes. I'm going to do everything I can to get the book out there. And I'd appreciate people spreading the word. But whether that happens or not is kind of not my business. My business was doing the transformational work for myself and in putting my heart on the page. And again, I did that the best that I could. And so I'm happy about that. And again, no matter the outcome of the book or where it takes me or doesn't. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. For everyone listening, go get the book by Jeff Burningham, the last book written by a human becoming wise in the age of AI. It's more than a book about AI. It's about humanity. It's about consciousness. It's about rewriting this whole idea of what success means and who you are in this world, releasing the old game and finding love and joy in the new. So thank you, Jeff, for being here. Thank you all for listening, and I hope that you will buy his book.
Thank you, Azul. Good to be with you.
Thank you.